Hello everyone and welcome to Only PvP Cat channel. So this week's build is Stamina Sorc, the Mageslayer as I call it. You know, I was always annoyed by these shield stackers and decided to create a build that will help to deal with them. Of course, it turned out that developers of the game, ZeniMax Studios, is even more annoyed with them, and they will nerf it pretty much soon. So my build will be useless, but uh, I still create it. It's fun to play. It's interesting. It helps to finish shield stackers really fast. Also, the second mechanics of the game which this build use is this awesome passive for sorcerers called Implosion, which has 6% chance to deal insane amount of damage to low health target when you deal physical damage. And so in this build I use some amount of physical damage sources, such as bow light attack. You know, it's the easiest way to deal physical damage. And a quick example of how exactly I'm going to punish shield stackers is on your screen. You see he's stacking shields and just staying stuck and hoping to survive, but damage is insane. Okay, so let's talk about items I use. As you probably guessed now, to crush shield users, I have to use Shield Breaker. It's a set that you get from Imperial City. It's bound on Equip, so you can buy him across different vendors, and you can get in Imperial City for Terval stones. It's not that hard to get if you find with purple like I do. It gives us maximum stamina recovery, weapon damage, and of course when you deal damage with light or heavy attack against a player who has a damage shield, you deal additional 2075 oblivion damage, sweet oblivion damage. So we use 5 set of this 3 jewelry, then hands and waist. Most of them purple, it's fine. Second set I use is again Toruk's Pact. It's not that great for stamina users since it adds useless spell damage, but maximum health and spell resistance okay, decent. But it decreases weapon enchantment cooldown and increases potency by 30%. So with infused weapon, this time it's a golden bow, we have additional 2141 oblivion damage. So what happens next? When someone uses shield, and you know people use them a lot in PvP, especially at low health, some magicka users start to stack shields, and you just spam light attack. It gives any light attack gives 2k damage, and weapon enchantment proc adds additional 2k oblivion damage with total of 4200 oblivion damage. Uh, Sometimes so it most of the time it will take 2 or 3 shots to finish your target. Of course, oblivion damage hits through shields and they will be dead. It's easy to use, easy to remember. Uh, so that's the idea of this set. And on a back bar I use two access of Toruk's Pact because you know access deal with dual wield passive. They deal bleeding damage, which is physical damage, and it can proc your sorcerer passive to finish low health target. It's also good. On a monster set, I use Celestics. Uh, at first, I was thinking that it's not that great in PvP, but turned out it will stun people a lot. I mean, for some reason, people don't go around from this earthquake and they get stunned. And of course it deals physical damage, which is also great for our build. I used most of items are medium. Okay, all items are medium, except the head. It's heavy, just to add us a little bit survivability. Okay, skills that we have. Okay, on a back bar where I use access. First skill is a dark deal. It's a great skill to restore some health and stamina in cost of magicka. You're gonna use it a lot. It's hard to get enough stamina without it. Second skill gives us evasion, increase in dodge chance by 15%. It's elude. Um, Duration is pretty sweet when you have enough medium armor on you. Third one is Hurricane Sorcerer skill. It gives us some physical damage and increases spell and physical resistances, but I'm not using it too much when I'm out of stamina. When stamina is low, I would rather use elude instead of this. But when you have in before the fight, I'm of course using it. Next one is Blood Craze. It's a dual wield skill that deals some physical damage over time, and since it's a weapon ability, it applies weapon enchantment a lot, and also you add some decent healing for you. Last one is of course blood. Last one is of course critical surge. It's a great skill. It adds weapon damage, gives you major brutality, and each time you deal a critical strike, despite this build is not about critical striking that much, but you still gonna crit a lot. It heals you for some amount of health each second. It can proc, so it's very important to survive with it. And for the ultimate, I use dual wield ultimate, lacerate. It does physical damage as we want being sorcerer, and heals you for 60% of damage done, which also might help you to survive. Okay, on a main bar, first skill is poison injection. It deals poison damage, and it's a great finisher because when enemies have low health, it deals damage over time. Damage is increased a lot. Next one is Streak. It's something what I use to run away from fight, or sometimes stun person and change the direction. So to you use Streak and you appear behind his neck and behind him and attack him. So you win few seconds before your target will realize where have you gone, and most of the time it will be enough to finish some light light armor user. Next one is bound ornaments. I never use it too much. It's more like a passive skill that you just have on the bar to have what he gives you, because it adds 8% of maximum stamina while slotted. And also your light attack, which you use a lot, damage is increased by 11%. It's also sweet. I didn't find it useful to use because it costs some stamina and just decreases damage um, you'll have by 20%. I don't know. Maybe it's worth. Maybe it's okay to use, but I don't use it too much. Next one is acid spray. It's just a skill that I use to a bit debuff enemies. add some poison damage and poison damage over time. Not that great one, but still it's okay. But the main reason why I use it is because it also applies weapon enchantment effect. And last one is Morph of Vigor that heals yourself more. It's super useful to survive in fights. It's a bit selfish because you're not gonna heal too much of your teammates since you are ranged. You use ranged weapons and you don't stay close to them. And with 10 meters radius, it won't reach them most of the time. But sometimes you heal your teammates and you heal yourself a lot. And last one is Suppression Field. It's a Sorcerer Ultimate. I found it extremely useful. At first I was using Bow Ultimate Ballista, I guess, and he wasn't much of a great ultimate, um, but this one is awesome. I mean, in a team fights where people stay so close, the silence will just finish people so much. And of course, it also does some damage, but it's kinda useless, of course. Uh, but silence just rules. As for passive, I took pretty much all the passives from class abilities, passives from dual wield and bow ability, and of course medium and heavy armor passives. A bit of a fighter's abilities, despite I don't use it. Some alliance war passives and of course racial. We use khajiit here because cats are cool and khajiits are even better. Uh, Despite the fact that passives are not that great, but you have additional 8% weapon critical. Um, other races are also fine for this build. I mean, pretty much any you can find reasons to use here, since you don't mind have additional stamina, health or magicka. Once you can transform magicka into other stats. So a few words about stats. I recorded this in Cyrodiil. Since this build is great for Cyrodiil, there are lots of shield stackers that you can punish and finish them off with your Oblivion damage. As you can see, I have invested all my attribute points into stamina, all 64, since we need stamina a lot to survive. We dodge roll, we run away, and of course we use skills. Despite the fact that we light attack a lot, we still using some skills. Health, magicka and stamina that you can see here is unbuffed because I forgot to eat food, otherwise it will be higher. And of course I'm using purple food all the time in PvP. Recoveries are pretty decent, but stamina recovery is a little bit higher, and it's gonna be enough for us. Weapon damage, weapon critical, not that high too, but as they don't affect Oblivion damage too much, so for our main purpose it doesn't matter too much. But we still want it to be a bit higher. And of course in battlegrounds numbers will be lower since there are no champion points allowed. I won't talk too much about champion points because people invest them pretty much similarly, and once you've seen any build for certain class, you might think that you've seen them all in terms of champion points. And as you can see here, I'm using Manda Stone for weapon damage. I like to have it a little bit higher. And yeah, there are reasons to use Manda Stone for maximum stamina, I guess. few words about how it plays. Of course, you buff up with surge, then evasion buff, and after that you cast hurricane, then try to restore some stamina with dark deal, and you're ready to go. Once you found someone, try to keep distance with streak, run away, and from there spam poison arrow and acid spray if there are lots of enemies. Of course, if you have ulti, use it. It's a great one. And if you see someone using shield, just spam him with light attacks. He will be dead. If you are under pressure, as you can see here, you run away with streak, then heal up, and then try to restore some stamina with dark deal. And of course, we're not using access too much. Most primary weapon we have here is our bow. So I tested this build in battlegrounds, and it's pretty effective. Results are high percent of taking first place as a team. It's more than 50 over 20 matches in each of game modes. So I like this build a lot. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. If you liked it, subscribe. I have many builds more to come. And thank you for your patience, for your attention, and goodbye.